Imagine being able to rewatch your favorite TV show with your best friend, who has literally never seen an episode before. That's our premise, and what we hope will set us apart from the other Office podcasts you may have stumbled across. So welcome to Bears Beats Bobbleheads, Talkin' Office, the podcast where three brave souls discuss every episode of The Office, from pilot to finale, and we get a fresh reaction from someone who has just watched the episode for the very first time in their life only hours before. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talkin' Office, and we are all the way to Season 2, Episode 7, The Client. First aired November 8th, 2005, and written by Toby himself, Paul Lieberstein, and directed by series creator Greg Daniels. All right, let's start the show, as we always do, by each of us giving our favorite moment from The Client. Joe, start us off, please.
My favorite moment has got to be Michael wanting to talk about Jan's divorce in front of their client, Christian, at Chili's.
Yeah, that's a good one. My favorite moment is actually not a funny moment. It's one of the rare times I'm not picking something that makes me laugh every time I see it. My favorite moment is the close at the end, and we'll talk about that, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, and I'll give maybe more reasons why, but yeah, that's the one that I like the most in this episode. Paul, what about you? First time seeing The Client in your life, what was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment was a very quick, subtle moment, is when they're reading, is it Agent Threat Midnight?
Threat Level Midnight.
Threat Level Midnight. Thank you, Threat Level Midnight. And Jim says to Phyllis, why don't you play Catherine Zeta-Jones? And she goes, is that the character's name?
Let's move on and start talking about the episode, The Client. In the cold open, we learn that Michael loves his jeans, Joe.
Yeah, he even has Ryan dry clean them for him.
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, give me those. Rips them and chucks them under the desk.
Well, they're the reason why they have casual Fridays.
Yes. Yeah, that was a great cold open, I thought.
Moving on. Jan and Michael prep in Michael's office for a pitch to try to score Lackawanna County as a client, the county in which Scranton is located, of course. And Jan learns that Michael has changed the location of the meeting from the Radisson to Chili's, Paul. Chili's again.
Because it's the new golf course. Small Businessman magazine. Did you read it there? You will. I sent a letter to the editor.
You know, we keep coming back to this magazine, so I should have done this the first time, but I finally did. I Googled just to make sure that this isn't like a small print magazine that they decided to highlight. And sure enough, it does not exist. There's like a small business magazine, but there's not a small businessman magazine. So just so that's clear, this is a fictitious magazine that they keep referencing, but hilarious nonetheless. Everyone is recounting tales of worst first dates in the break room. And boy, does Pam have a doozy.
Oh, my God. Was it a high school hockey game she was Roy forgot her at and shows up with his brother?
He left without her when she was in the bathroom.
That's not a bad omen for a relationship. I don't know what is.
It's also why she won't go to sporting events with Roy anymore.
Yeah, solve that mystery for Jim.
God.
As Michael and Jan prepare to leave for the meeting, Michael tells everyone they might as well just go home for the day. And Jan is perplexed by this, Paul.
Yeah, she's like, do they always close when they leave? And they're like, oh, they don't do anything. And then he starts backpedaling. Oh, my God, it was just so cringy.
Jan and Michael ride together to Chili's, along with a cameraman, of course. And Jan insists that she will be doing all of the talking during the meeting, Joe.
This is one of the things I really love about this episode. We'll get into it a bit, but Jan's not a salesperson. she's like, executive at corporate.
Mhm.
We actually see Michael shine here. Like it may seem ridiculous, but there's like a method to his mayhem in a sense. And he's like, I love when he's in the car. He's like, well, we should have a sign in case somebody's like, starting to screw things up or whatever.
Mhm.
Jan's like alarmed that Michael would even have that in his mind for a sales pitch.
Yeah, she's dismissing him, and is coming from, in her eyes, a superior place. And we'll talk about it, but that's like during the meeting itself, we see a lot of that. But I just thought what was really funny in that moment where she said that to Michael was just he kind of looks back at the camera and gives it a look, and does that anytime she tries to tame him. He kind of gives like I know what I'm doing, trust me, kind of look to the camera. Paul, what was your? You're kind of the salesman here, representative. Is that a common occurrence where somebody that maybe is less of a salesman but is the boss feels like, hey, I'm going to take this over, and puts the other person in their place?
I've seen that, and I've actually been subject to that. And it's very infuriating as a salesperson, and I've actually had to go in and kind of do what Michael has done, which is move the conversation into a way that's going to work with them and try and undo some of the damage that an executive has done. Oh, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Was this at a Chili's?
No, it wasn't at a Chili's, but I can tell you they don't have a 2-drink minimum. I'm going to bring that up every time we talk about Chili's, guys.
Jan and Michael arrive at Chili's and meet the rep for the county, Christian, played by the one and only Tim Meadows, Joe.
Yeah, I like Tim Meadows. He was on SNL forever, and he really didn't have that many roles, but I always thought he was solid with what he was able to do.
I agree. I am also. Subtle is right. Like he was kind of under the radar, maybe underutilized, but he had some really good bits. The ladies' man, of course. Paul, what about you? Are you a Tim Meadows fan?
I am. I was so excited when I saw Tim Meadows actually. I was like, oh, Tim Meadows. Tim Meadows is in this episode. Yeah, I loved little Timmy Meadows. Absolutely.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Everyone greets each other, and we learn that Jan Levinson Gould is now just Jan Levinson, Paul.
Mm-hmm. And Michael wants to talk about that right here, right now. and Tim Meadows doesn't know what the fuck to do.
What happened to Gould?
They apparently got divorced, and he's like, do you want to talk about it? And she's Tim Meadows is right there, like 2 feet away.
Yeah, as somebody who's been divorced, that's just like, you don't want to talk about it in general. You don't want to talk about it with some guy you really have no respect for. You don't want to do it in front of a client.
At a Chili's.
At a Chili's.
As they take their booth, Jan is determined to get down to brass tacks right away, but Michael seems more interested with Awesome Blossoms and finding the perfect joke to tell. Christian, Joe?
Yeah, so Michael's doing a good thing. He's buttering the guy up, getting him like relaxed. Again, Jan's not in sales. I've never really been a salesperson, but I do know that you don't want to like just attack him with like, we need your business, make a call right now. Like Michael's, he's like, he wants more awesome with his blossom,
As Pam is putting away Michael's joke book, she comes across what appears to be an original script written by Michael. The title, Threat Level Midnight.
Starring Agent Michael Scarn.
The FBI.
For the FBI. And it is a fully written out script.
Illustrations and everything, like poster art.
Yeah. Yep. And what does she do? She gives it to Jim.
Of course.
Of course she gave it to Jim. And some fuckery's about to ensue.
Well, on that tease, let's take our first break, and we will come back and dive into the table read of Threat Level Midnight, as well as going back to Chili's to see how that whole scenario is playing out. So we'll be right back on Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talkin' Office, Talkin' the Client. Be right back. If you're enjoying our Office podcast, be sure to check out Cast That Movie. the podcast where Paul and I, using our superhero aliases, revisit failed cinematic projects from the past. We discuss what went wrong, and then we try to fix the mess by going back in time and recasting the project with a cast we feel would have elevated the material. We also assign a new director/visionary. Because you can never have too much of a good thing, we also conjure up a dream project of something we would like to see made into a film, and we cast that as well. So find Cast That Movie on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, or at our home at thejodown.blog. Welcome back to Bears Beats, Bobbleheads Talking Office. And we are talking Season 2, Episode 7, The Client. And we go back to Chili's. And Michael is telling Christian a joke about a brown probe that almost has Awesome Blossom coming out of his nose. It's pretty clear that Michael is charming Christian very effectively, wouldn't you say, Paul?
Oh, he is. And Jan is not, it's not clicking with Jan at all what he's doing. And she's very, very annoyed. And he is doing exactly what you do in sales. Absolutely. Yep, he is building rapport like a son of a bitch.
What about you, Joe? What was your take on that whole Michael charming Christian deal?
I like it as us as the audience, we see what Michael's doing. And like you're just seeing like Jan just getting more and more annoyed. Because Michael's been so incompetent. Mm-hmm. But we actually see him doing something well here, which is like a nice breath of fresh air.
The workers of the office gather together for a table read of the Michael Scott joint, Threat Level Midnight, Joe.
Oh, God. I love Threat Level Midnight. It pops up again here and there after this every now in a blue moon. And it's like one of my favorite it's one of my favorite things of the whole show just because of how ridiculous it is. I mean, you got Samuel Chang, played by Ryan, and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Read by Phyllis.
Of course. And it's just like, it's obviously just like a really bad, poorly written script that they're just having a blast, like, reading. It's good.
Yeah, it's derivative through and through, which is a kind of Michael's MO, right? Anything creative is essentially just a ripoff of something else someone else made that was popular.
Oh, yeah.
Jan grows increasingly impatient as Michael and Christian continue to pal around. Paul, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. Chili's, man. Oh God.
Back ribs.
I don't know if we're allowed to sing that. Do they
this
copyright?
Podcast was brought to you by Chili's.
Oh, we shit talking.
Home of the not 2 drink minimum.
You'll feel God there.
Oh, but yeah, just more Michael buttering up Christian, and Christian. It's funny because when we first meet him, like you said, the divorce is announced and it's an awkward moment, and he seems pretty. He doesn't seem overly playful to start with, but Michael certainly is finding a way to bring that out of him and soften him up pretty dramatically.
Yeah, and it takes a good old drunken game of truth or dare at a Chili's. Paul, please tell me you pulled this.
I've done similar things. It's no secret that, if you've watched Glenn Ross, we like to get people drunk when we can and work out deals, and I have done that a couple of times. That's about as far as I can get.
Got to use the tools at your disposal. Yeah, alcohol is a great lubricant.
It is. It is the golf club for us salespeople.
The table read continues, and as you pointed out, Joe, we have Ryan reading for Samuel L. Chang, Agent Scarn's hapless partner. We have Phyllis reading for Catherine Zeta-Jones, Michael Scarn's lover. And we have Oscar reading for the role of Goldenface, the bad guy. And, of course, Dwight reading the role of Agent Michael Scarn, because that's the only way they could get him to participate. Joe, do you agree with Kevin that the script deserves 2 thumbs down?
Oh, absolutely, but I'd still watch the hell out of it. I'd watch that movie. I'd Joe down that if it existed.
And Scott, we would totally do cast that movie on Threat Level Midnight. Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Search and replace doesn't work on misspelled words, Paul, leaving behind one Dwight.
Wait. Okay, now I got to admit, I was confused on this one because Pam says, Dwight put 2 and 2 together and realized that that Michael was making fun of him. I think he was just more pissed at the way the name was spelled, because that's all his talking head is.
Dwight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The meeting at Chili's takes a deep turn with an impromptu game of a truth-only version of Truth or Dare, as you had referenced earlier, Joe, and things get a little real.
Oh God, yeah. Like this is like what I like with the show is like they kind of bring like real moments that, obviously they get Jan to talk about her divorce. Obviously she doesn't want to, but she kind of like goes deep too, like how she wanted to have kids and Mr. Gould didn't, and that also plays on with the sale because now Christian is like invested in her story and her as a person. Again, Michael's brilliant at this element of the paper industry.
Yeah, he kind of orchestrated all of it, right? And I think it was telling too that Jan would get to that point because in a previous scene where things aren't staying on the professional tack that she preferred, she orders, was it a vodka tonic or whatever? So, again, alcohol is the great lubricant, and it got her to open up and establish, like a trust, right, Paul? You want kind of a trust or a bond.
That is the ultimate key to sales, and that is the trick that separates the average salesperson from a great one, is being able to do that and be able to actually make the person you're having the sale with feel like you've connected with them on a legitimate, real level. Absolutely.
Jim and Pam have a grilled cheese dinner atop the building as Dwight and Kevin light up fireworks that Dwight got from his uncle down below. Okay, so yeah, he gets pissed off about the Dwight thing and says, I got fireworks from my cousin. You're thinking it's going to be awesome. It's some fucking sparkler shit that he's jumping over with Kevin, and they got a fire extinguisher like 3 feet away. Michael closes the deal, Joe, and we see his master plan and master sales skills at work at long last.
Yeah, it worked, and it's I like the moment where Jan kind of realizes, oh my God, he's making the sale, and when they do, it's great until it gets awkward.
Paul, I wanted you to kind of describe like the pivot, because there's like a definite pivot with Michael where he does finally go in for the sale, whereas he's been on the periphery the whole time, like building up this relationship with Christian. Getting the rapport established, and then he just goes for, I wouldn't say it was a pretty soft sell still, but why don't you enlighten us non-sales people about how that was realistic and successful?
Yeah, so giving tricks of the trade here. This is something I will bring up because I had a executive that was upset because I would be on these calls with people or be in meetings with people for longer than 15 minutes. He thought everything could be done in 15 minutes. And I was like, it can't be done in 15 minutes. And that's kind of the thing. You start to get to this point where you can relate what you're talking about and circle back and make it relevant to the sale and be able to make it real. So what he has done here is essentially did the spiral where he's kind of circling around almost like a jackal or a vulture and looking for the moment when he can come in. And he got that point of vulnerability where he was able to say, hey, I know this town. I know how many schools there are. I know. And as soon as he started doing it, I knew immediately. I'm like, oh, shit, he's going for it. And yeah, that was a master stroke, and really is. Again, whoever was involved with this show really must have been in the sales world for a while or knew people in the sales world, because that is a very, very realistic tactic and how it's done.
Celebrating their victory, Jan and Michael make out in the parking lot of the Chili's, and then they leave together for what we can only assume is to be a hot night, Joe.
This is again like, crossing boundaries of, Jan's Michael's boss, and he went in for it and he got that kiss. And then the favorite part of this, though, because they sneak off into the Jan's hotel, is the next morning we see Dwight sleeping on a couch at the office in a space blanket.
Michael arrives at work and insists that nothing happened. Then he waffles a bit. Then he admits that they, as in him and Jan, technically spent the night together, Joe.
You have Dwight asking, did you do her? Like, the most appropriate thing. Well, one, you should be asking your boss if he did anybody, but you shouldn't probably be asking your boss if he did his boss.
Right. Jan calls Michael, and what follows is a very bizarre, tense conversation, Paul. Now, we only hear Michael's side of it, but we get a pretty good idea of what is happening on Jan's side of it.
Yeah, she goes as far as to accuse him of getting her drunk. And, which is interesting because we learned that they didn't do anything that night anyways. So that's kind of weird. That's kind of a thing on her. And to the point where he's hiding under the desk to get away from the documentary crew. Michael is like, he doesn't realize that one night stands are a thing. He's really, really clean. It was just kind of gross.
Some might even say that Jim and Pam had their first date last night, Paul, and at least he didn't leave her at a high school hockey game.
Yikes!
We haven't really touched on Jim and Pam much here this episode, so I want both you guys, Paul, you go first. I want you guys to kind of give, with the dinner on the rooftop and, the bonding over Michael's script. What Jim and Pam relationship, what did we get out of it up until that unfortunate last line from Jim there?
Well, she tells Roy basically to fuck off for the night, and she's going to work late so they can read the script. And assuming that Jim broke off a date with what's her name? I can't remember her name. Purse lady.
Yep.
And what's that?
Katie, right?
Katie. Yeah. I'm assuming he broke because he's like, I was supposed to meet a friend tonight. I'm assuming that was supposed to be Katie. Mm-hmm. And they had a candlelight grilled cheese dinner with fireworks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dinner and a movie if you count Michael's script. Joe, your observations on the Jim-Pam dynamic this episode?
Yeah, it looked like it was going somewhere until Jim put his foot in his mouth. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's such a backhanded thing to say. It's not a happy memory. And then, he just kind of at least I didn't leave you at a high school hockey game. Wow, man, that's a line you probably should not have crossed.
Yeah, and I think he was frustrated because she wouldn't admit that there was dancing, and it got to be very immature, as far as his behavior there for sure. But I think that was it, is he was trying to play it up as what he thought it was. She wouldn't meet him halfway on that, and so he goes for the easy dig. And I think this episode, well, I'll get to that in the rundown at the end, but yeah, I got a juxtaposition between what happened with Jim and Pam and what happened at Chili's pre the hookup. So we'll get to that when we come back from our last break. But before we do that, I want to just acknowledge the final scene where Michael and Jim kind of give each other a look that, I don't know, I kind of translate it as, like a woman or women. Am I right? Just kind of one of those looks like, shh, all those women.
Yeah, it felt like it was a mutual thing. They're both in the same boat. They're both in the doghouse, if you will, with people they like. It's a nice. I like that little moment between Jim and Michael.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed.
Okay, well, let's go to our last break now that we've finished talking about the client, and let's come back We will each give our winner for the episode, who we thought had the best showing, which character. And we will also be checking in with Paul to see if Jim is still his favorite character. And the previous episode we watched, which was, oh boy, I'm blanking here. What was your...
The fight.
Oh, the fight. Yes, the fight. If the fight is still Paul's favorite episode. We will be right back on Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office.
Hi, this is Paul Muad'Dib, one half of Podcast Above a Convenience Store Talkin' Twin Peaks, which I work on with Joseph Fremming, who's also on the podcast that you're listening to right now. We go through all of Twin Peaks, Season 1, Season 2, the movie, the books. Right now we're digging into Season 3, which will end the podcast with the final dossier, which was the last book that was put out by Mark Frost, putting a cap on everything that's happened in the Twin Peaks universe. So please, check us out. You can find us on the joedown.blog with everything else on here. You can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify. There's no reason why you don't want to listen.
Welcome back to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office, and we are finishing up our talk on The Client, Season 2, Episode 7. All right, let us start. Joe, why don't you give us who you thought won the episode and then a general overall impression of the episode and where it fits into the Office lore.
Okay, so with this season, I've been trying hard to avoid picking this person a lot because Season 2 is a very Michael-centric. It's because 40-year-old virgin and all that. But I have to give it. This is a Michael episode. We see him in his sales glory. We see him. He's actually he's not as much of a bumbling doofus as we think. He can score huge sales for the company. And the fact, and also just seeing him crawl under his desk, trying to talk to Jan and get away from the cameras. Everything about it, I'm going Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely the logical choice, and you're right. It's a major Michael character builder. Seeing him in his element, seeing what got him to where he is, to make that realistic and not just a guy that failed upwards. So I agree with you, and I teased before the break a juxtaposition that I kind of realized in this episode. It might be a little bit crass, maybe, but I'm still gonna throw it out there. So we see Michael close a sale and just expertly close the deal for Lackawanna County, right? Just textbook. And we see Jim trying to close his own sale and blow it at the end by, like you guys said, putting his foot in his mouth. He was trying to sell Pam on the experience of the night, trying to sell it as it was a first date. And wasn't it a great first date? Wasn't it a great experience? We listened to a Travis song together, Paul, all right. First time seeing The Client, winner and general takeaway.
Well, yeah, the winner was Michael. No question about it. I mean, I have to go with you guys. This was all about Michael. And again, I am liking the turn that we're seeing with Michael, and the fact that he could do something like close a sale like that, and then immediately in the next scene crawl under a desk and go back to being Michael is really, says a lot about Steve Carell as an actor and being able, it's just fantastic. So yeah, no question about that.
Okay, and then let's check in with you on your favorite character to date and favorite episode to date. Is the fight still number one? Is Jim still number one?
The fight is still number one, and Jim still is number one. I again, he has the balls to fucking print off Michael's script and give it to everyone and host the fucking round table on it. Yeah, fucking right, Jim.
Oh, man. All right. I think that does it here for Season 2, Episode 7, The Client. But we will be back next week, and we are going to be covering Season 2, Episode 8. Another solid episode called Performance Review. Until then, that's Joe, that's Paul, I'm Scott, and this is Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office. Please come back next week and join us again. For more podcasts like this one and general pop culture tomfoolery, be sure to visit thejoedown.blog. That's thejoedown.blog.